take two. So have we decided on like getting Lex, the camera guy, a gift basket or something, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's gotten some pretty nice gifts lately. But,
Yeah. Yeah.
Let's not say this on live.
Lex, we miss you. Yeah.
we miss you, man.
Lex is our camera guy and our overall therapist, manager.
Therapist,
whatever.
yes.
Yeah. A funny guy too. Good sense of humor.
Miss you, Lex. We'll see you when you get back, man. Hope
Yeah.
your wife does well, man.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So, thanks, Mike. Thanks for joining us. Welcome to
Yep.
Real Estate and the Economy.
You bet.
This is take 2 of episode 2.
Yeah.
My name is Jared Uraine with the Uraine Ordonez 5 Diamond Group here at Vice Realty. Miguel Francis, the armchair economist.
Right. Oh, you know what the definition of an economist is?
Bring it.
Somebody who can tell you tomorrow why what he said yesterday didn't happen today.
Yeah, that works. that sounds appropriate.
He could tell you tomorrow.
I love
what
the
he
running
said
joke that
yesterday.
you and I have with you and your predictions, man. And
well,
I'm going to use it as many times as I can.
Yeah.
The world's a better place when you're wrong.
Well, it is. Hopefully, I'm wrong today.
Yeah, right?
The goal here is to be wrong. Yeah, because
Oh,
if what we
man.
talk about today, actually transpires, not good.
Right.
It's always the world is a better place if I'm wrong.
Okay, so today's topic is going to be the impact. The first 10 days. What's the impact of the United States defaulting on its debt?
Wow, I can feel the stress on my chest. Just
Get some Tums,
thinking
man.
it
Get some
through.
Rolaids here.
Thinking it through. Well, let's get the market's perspective on it. You and I looked at the Treasury notes earlier, and what was the 3-year at? The 3-month Treasury.
So the 30-day Treasury yield was
Right.
5.64%.
Okay, 564 for 30 days.
30
and how
days.
about 90?
90 days would be 5.08.
So that's an inverted yield, right?
You'll be
Where-
making less in 90 days if you
Right. So if you let somebody hold your money for 90 days, the logic is that you get more money. But that's not what the market is saying. Because of that inverted yield curve on Treasury notes, the market's telling us there's a lot of stress coming up on the X date, the day that the federal government runs out of cash. And that X date is projected by Janet Yellen to be in the neighborhood, and unfortunately, nobody knows the exact date, in the neighborhood of June 1st.
Yeah. So that's about 2 weeks, a little over 2 weeks away.
It's 16 days from today.
Yeah. So that's the projected date. And if that's coming from the source, it's pretty reliable in the sense. Now,
It's projected to be Janet Yellen says June 1st. Now, like all of us in our household income, we like to keep a minimum amount in our account. Well, the federal government likes to keep a minimum amount in their account also, which is expected to be in the neighborhood of $25 billion. But because the expected income and outflows are not an exact science, it's anywhere from June 1st, no later, to June 8th. But if the government doesn't make a decision, I'd say 3 days before June 1st, it's going to have serious consequences to the market and a lot of other things.
yeah, fascinating. Now, typically over the last 100 years, raising the debt ceiling by Congress has been a pretty procedural thing. Typically speaking.
Yeah, they
this
argue
round is
about it.
different. There's a different air that's going on.
It is different, and that's because of how the House has been structured. It's more like Parliament than Congress, especially the Republican Party. Kevin McCarthy had to run.
Just to be clear, no politics here.
We're
just reporting the facts.
the information,
Facts.
right. Kevin McCarthy had to run 15 times to secure his position as Speaker of the House. And so he made some serious concessions in doing that. And I think we mentioned this last week.
Yeah.
One of those concessions was that he could have his authority, his position as Speaker of the House, questioned by anyone in the House for any reason. And all of a sudden, they have to have a new election to see who the Speaker is. And so
And that's anybody in Congress.
anyone
For
in the
any
House.
reason.
for any reason. Anyone in the House, Republican or Democrat.
So you get a divided consensus on being able to raise the debt ceiling, and it boils down to him making that call.
Right, and divided is a good word because the Republican Party is divided into 5 factions. 5, right? They meet once a week, and they now call themselves the Five Families.
Five
You know,
families.
like the Five Family. It's a reference to the 5 mafia families that once ran New York.
Right.
Probably, well, who knows, right? But the 5 mafia families, and they meet once a week, and there is one of those factions that is extreme, and that faction is going to have an outsized influence on the negotiations of the debt ceiling. Yeah.
Fascinating. So the potential of default becomes even higher. It's an elevated risk.
Unfortunately, shockingly, there's some political leaders that are actually encouraging a default,
Right.
And
Usually from people who have experience defaulting.
yeah. As a matter of fact, can't get a loan in the United States. Have to get a loan from Deutsche Bank.
Deutsche.
Yeah. So anyway, Deutsche, who's always in trouble for doing
Fraud,
business with
yeah.
oligarchs and things like
Yes.
that. But anyway, right. So politically, we've never been structured this way to where we can get so doggone close to the debt ceiling. We got super close in 2011, and it cost the United States, as we mentioned last time, they were downgraded by Standard & Poor's to AA from AAA.
Yeah.
And so going past the X state, that's one problem. Getting close is a problem in itself. The X state being, when the Treasury runs out
Right.
of money. Janet Yellen is actually asking Congress, who do I not pay first?
Interesting question.
Yeah.
So what is the impact? What would the first 10 days look like if the United States defaulted?
The first 10 days. Wow, what a train wreck. Well, let's start with the big dollar item and work our way down. Social Security, which would include Social Security disability. Social Security would, there would be $34 billion of Social Security recipients, and that includes disability, that would not receive their checks. Those folks oftentimes are waiting for that check to come in to pay their housing expense. They're because they get paid once a month. They're waiting for that check to buy their groceries. They're waiting for that check to put gas in their car. So if they don't get their Social Security check, $34 billion worth, that's going to impact the real estate market. That's going to impact food. That's going to impact energy.
Right.
People in those sectors are going to lose their jobs. If people aren't going to the grocery store to buy groceries, you don't need as many people at the grocery store, right? It's going to impact, that'll have a rippling effect.
And that's just locally here in the United States. The impact doesn't just stay local, though, because there are many economies that you rely on the dollar in order to do transactions, right? So what's the international impact?
Well, the international impact is Janet Yellen asking Congress, who do I not pay? Should I not pay Social Security, or do I default on our treasuries, right? Our treasury notes, right?
How many countries have investments in treasuries? Yeah.
The vast majority of countries hold U.S. treasuries,
Right.
especially the larger economies.
Right.
China holds a ton of treasuries, right? And so if the United States decides to default on the treasuries, then countries like China, they're going to have a flight to safety. And by the way, if the dollar is collapsed, where's your safety, right? But anyway, they're going to sell those treasuries at a mark to market. What that's going to do is cause those treasuries to be sold at an extreme discount. That'll be a complete collapse of the U.S. dollar globally. It'll be inflation around the world. In my estimation, it'll be worse than the Great Depression, which started in 1929, that depression.
Wow.
Yeah. And so it's going to be quite consequential.
Catastrophic is the word that we've been using.
Yeah, yeah. What it makes me think of, as a kid, well, they don't do trapeze acts at Caesar's Palace anymore, right?
Trapeze? Act?
Trapeze, the guys that swinging from the ropes.
Circus?
Oh yeah, circus. Yeah,
Yeah,
I apologize.
I mean,
yeah.
I believe so.
Oh, do they
I haven't
still
been
do
there
that? Right.
in a minute.
Well, there were times that they used to do that back early on without a net, right? Believe it or not, above the casino pit, which is kind of insane. But that's what they did back in the day. Well, that's sort of what the politicians are doing with the debt ceiling. They're flying without a net.
Right.
And man, you miss, and there's only one there's only one result, except it's a much grander scale than whatever could happen at Circus. So back to the first 10 days. You don't pay Social Security, that's $34 billion in the first 10 days, right? So let's also not pay Medicare and Medicaid. That's about $6.7 billion in the first 10 days.
Right.
So that's going to put, imagine the incredible stress that'll put on the healthcare system, which is already struggling trying to come out of the pandemic. They're already short with helpers and work. Many hospitals are running in the red now, budget-wise. Let's just take Medicare and Medicaid, which, by the way, is their largest source of income,
Right.
away.
Yeah. Ripple effect is extraordinary,
Mm-hmm.
and the climate that surrounds the decision is it's a fascinating moment in history to be a part of.
Mm-hmm.
It really is, because while we get to sit back and watch this whole thing play out, what happens next if they do default? That's going to be a completely different environment. Mm-hmm. All of our speculation forecasts, economic, real estate, and all that good stuff are based off of these things functioning normally, and now that is even being questioned.
Right.
And that's where this particular moment in time, as each day gets closer, it's just going to increase that pressure, and we'll be keeping an eye on it.
Yeah.
Mike, before we wrap it up, was there anything else you wanted to add on that?
Well, keep your eye on retail sales. Home Depot has a very negative forecast. However, retail sales did kind of recover a little bit. The reason retail sales matter, I'll wrap it up quick, is because that is consumer spending is 70% of inflation. Retail sales is 30% of that 70. That's going to put an upward pressure on the Fed to hike the rate again in June. And I give it a 40% chance that they will. The market says 20. I say 40. It's always best when I'm wrong.
Right. And all of this, especially if the economy or the debt ceiling defaults, whatever.
Yeah, that's if we survive the debt ceiling.
Right, right.
One collapse at a time. Yeah.
And even if the debt ceiling is dealt with, what's the forecast with defaults, foreclosures in the commercial space?
Commercial space. That's a whole different problem. If we survive the debt ceiling disaster, right? Mm-hmm. Commercial space, what you spoke with your previous guest, is in a lot of trouble. We're looking at 20% vacancy in downtown and city centers around the country. Some city centers like San Francisco and LA are at 25% vacancy, and a lot of that is post-pandemic results. My daughter works half the time at home, and half the time she drives into Manhattan, right? And she has that luxury now. So with a lot of folks working from home, businesses don't need as much space as they did previously. So there's 20% vacancy, but it doesn't end there.
Yeah.
If fewer people are going into the office, so we'll use my daughter as an example. She runs through Grand Central Station. Well, if 20% less people are running through Grand Central Station, all the restaurants and all the sandwich shops and all the services there, they start to shut down. All the dry cleaners and all those different entities that supported those downtown workers, they're suffering economically. Yeah. Additionally, the city's taxes, the municipalities have a tax drop, so it starts to snowball.
And that's all based off stresses that people are going to be dealing with as a result of these changes and adjustments. But even if you're not under a stressful situation, for example, you spend $45 billion to buy a social media network, Elon Musk stopped paying rent the moment he took ownership of it.
Yeah.
And because he knows that there's going to be some adjustment, some market adjustment, and he's talking about what the next steps are in those physical building spaces.
Well, commercial real estate, the problem gets worse. As your previous guest said, they re-amortize those loans every 5 years, and $1.2 trillion are going to be re-amortized in the next 12 months. And they're going to move from, 3.5% to 6.5%. And you're looking at some serious numbers in defaults of commercial real estate space.
Just adding to the fuel to the fire.
Right.
Yeah.
That's going to impact all of us.
Interesting times, my friend. Glad to have the armchair economist on board.
Yeah.
Even though, back to the joke, it's better when you're wrong.
It's always best when I'm wrong. Hey, you know what? Commercial real estate's going to bounce back. It's all going to convert to condos. We'll lose the housing shortage. And
Don't lie to me, Mike.
Yeah, everybody's going to own a home. It'll be great. Yeah. As soon as you're out of college, you're 22 years old, you buy your first house.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then you live a happy family life.
Yeah,
4 kids, 2.5 dogs.
Not.
Well, we'll end it there, my friend. Thank you so much for joining us.
Right.
That is our episode for Real Estate and the Economy today with Mike Francis, the armchair economist, and myself, Jared Uraine, with the Uraine Ordonez 5 Diamond Group here at Vice Realty. Thank you so much for tuning in. Make sure you like and subscribe. Share this if you'd like to share this more information. As we do get closer to the X date, we'll be keeping tabs and keeping you posted. So stay tuned as we go through, and of course, social media outlets, anywhere you can find us online. My name is Jared. Thank you so much for joining. Make it a wonderful day.